Hello everyone and welcome to this edition of Child Learning. In the last edition, I talked about understanding the psychology of a child part 1, and in this edition I will be talking about understanding the psychology of a child part 2. In the previous edition, I defined child psychology as the changes or processes that take place in the child as he or she passes through various stages of development. In this edition, I want to begin by adding another definition to this collection, and this definition comes from Margaret Grant, a renowned educationist. Margaret Grant defines child psychology as the study of the behavior of children, the study of the behavior of children. So as educators, as teachers, we need to study the behavior of children. This will help us to become better teachers. Okay, so essentially today we want to look at the theory of cognitive development by Jean Piaget. And Jean Piaget mentions 4 stages of cognitive development for every child. Okay, it's important to also note that when we talk about child development, there are 4 parts or 4 aspects of child development. These are the emotional aspects, the social aspect, the physical aspect, and the cognitive aspect. So I am focusing on the cognitive aspect in this particular presentation, and that's why I'm talking about Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development. So the first stage in Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development is what he terms the sensory motor stage, which runs from birth through 18 to 24 months old. So at this stage, children love to experiment. So they shake things, they want to drag things, they want to taste things, and as they do all of these things, their memory begins to form. They also begin to develop language. So you begin to hear them saying dada, mama, and stuff like that. Now you have the pre-operational stage, which is the second stage in Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development. This stage runs from toddlerhood to about 7 years old. Okay, here the child develops symbolic thinking, the child develops intuitive thinking, and the child's memory deepens. Okay, then of course you have the concrete operational stage, which runs from about 7 to 11 years old. Here the child begins to develop the ability to think in logical ways, to reason logically. Of course, there is also more awareness of external events. So the child becomes more aware of the things that are happening around him. Okay, the last stage of Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development is the formal operational stage, which runs from adolescent to adulthood. Now, at this stage, every characteristic we mentioned in the earlier 3 stages become even more pronounced. Okay, of course there are underlying ideas in Piaget's theory of cognitive development. One of the underlying ideas is the idea of schemas. Children are born with schemas. What are schemas? The schemas are basic blocks of knowledge. So children don't come with a blank mind to the world. Contrary to John Locke's assertion, tabula rasa, John Locke believed then that children were born with a blank mind. No, 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 no. According to Jean Piaget, children are not born with a blank mind. They, in fact, possess schemas right from when they are in their mother's womb. Okay. Surprisingly, I mean, when I was going to have my first baby, she could tell her mother's voice right from the womb. So that tells you that even fetuses do not have a blank mind, you know. No, they don't. So that is the idea of schemas. Another idea is, behind John Piaget's theory of cognitive development is that of adaptation. Adaptation. So when a child learns something new, what happens is that new piece of information needs to be added to an existing schema in the child's brain. Where there is no existing schema to accommodate a new body of knowledge, the child's brain will create a totally new schema. So the first process where a new idea or a new knowledge fits into an existing schema is called assimilation. But where a new schema needs to be formed to accommodate a totally new idea or knowledge, then the process is called accommodation. Accommodation. And when a new schema is formed, there has to be what you call equilibration. These are very, very big words, isn't it? So equilibration simply means, the child's brain needs to ensure that order is maintained when a new schema is created, so that everything runs smoothly as if nothing happened. I think these are just the simplest ways. This is just the simplest way I can probably explain this so that it doesn't sound confusing. So, right, we have assimilation, we have accommodation, then we have equilibration. The long and short of all these big words, these high-sounding words, is that children will absorb new information. They can learn new things, even if they've never been exposed to such things before. Okay, let me also try to explain it in another way. Now, as teachers, we are familiar with the idea of previous knowledge. So even your lesson plan will usually have what you call previous knowledge. And learning takes place from known to unknown. Okay, so picture a situation where a child is learning something new, but which is related to something the child already knew before. Okay, that is what we call assimilation. But picture a teacher trying to teach something the child has never known before, has never had any idea about before. Then you talk about accommodation, because a new schema has to be created in the child's brain, and that new schema can accommodate that new knowledge. And in order for that new knowledge to be able to settle down properly in the child's brain, equilibration has to take place. I didn't even think of this before, but I believe it explains what these three big words are. Now, surprisingly, these three processes, assimilation, accommodation, and equilibration, are always happening in the average child throughout the school year. So teachers need to, ensure that they help children to build new knowledge, to create new knowledge as conveniently as possible for the child. Teachers need to help every child to develop their schemas. Okay, they need to come up with activities that help every child to learn and to grow their schemas. Well, I hope that you have learned something in today's presentation, and thank you very much for listening.